And welcome to the Free Your Geek podcast. I am your host, coming at you in black and white, Jay Free, and they're surrounded by all his friends, the Avengers. And if you're listening to the audio podcast, none of this makes sense, but it's my co-host and cohort, KB. KB, what is up?
A lot of things. A
What
lot of things to talk about today.
there are a lot of interesting things. Let's talk about something. Let's start off just first of all. This is episode 99. We're almost 100 episodes in. I didn't
What are
want to
we
bring
gonna
that
do for 100?
So I have a couple of ideas. I don't know yet. I'm going to do either something for episode 100 or episode 101. I don't know how it works out. It's a little bit of work that I have to do, but I might be putting together, and I already have the episodes picked out, but I want to do like a top 5 of my favorites, and I can just do a little intro. And then, even though it seems super lazy because I'm going to just play old shows again, it's actually way more difficult because I have to edit all those clips and download and then put them all together and then do an intro and outro for each one. So that's going to be kind of fun. So I'm kind of working on that in some free time. So I don't know if that'll be 100 or 101 because there's a lot of cool things coming up, and I want to definitely talk about some of the things that are upcoming, as well as I know we have a couple of other friends of the show. Joe from Whatever Bro wanted to be on for the WandaVision, so he definitely wants to be on at some point to talk about Falcon and Winter Soldier, which we'll be talking about the first few episodes here a little bit later. I just think that maybe like the Black Widow movie as well. Maybe we can certainly do that.
Supposed to be, is it June? Or they
I believe so. I believe it's June 1st, and I think it's going to be coming out on Disney Plus now as well. I think it's going to be dropping. But we'll talk about that as that gets a little bit closer. But one of the things that's even further than that I want to talk about is the Suicide Squad. James Gunn directed the Suicide Squad movie. So it's different. I don't think it's set in the same continuity if you go back and listen to one of our older episodes.
I think it's more of a reboot than a sequel.
I believe so. But if you go back and check out one of our earlier episodes, Suicide Squad, I forgot. It was a long time ago. It's probably the first like 25 episodes we did.
Maybe even before that.
We had Mike Prue on for that episode. But yeah, the Suicide Squad movie is different than Suicide Squad. So I think this is going to be a lot more lighthearted, but also a lot more graphic in the sense that I watched the Red Band trailer. I don't know if you saw that. Lots of swearing, lots of gore.
King Shark.
John.
There's a lot of gore there.
John Cena. Yeah. They talk a lot about male anatomy in the movie, which I thought was kind of interesting. And he had probably one of the best jokes. And if you haven't seen the Red Band trailer, I will not spoil it for you. Also, we try to keep this PG-13, so I do not want to repeat the joke. But it was
I like this for James Gunn because he can take that Guardians charm and put it in a real R-rated kind of environment.
Exactly.
I think you're going to get a more honest movie out of it. So I predict that it'll do well.
I think so too. And some of the cast that they have there, Idris Elba, John Cena, Margot Robbie, Viola Davis, I believe, is back. I can't remember who some of the other, but there's just like a ton. Pete Davidson, I think, is in it.
Pete Davidson's in it.
It's crazy. It's crazy, dude. So I'm really excited about that. I also like the fact that they're bringing a ton of like unknown characters, if you will. I just think that's going to be super fun. That's like, it's all like almost like the who's who of unknown, villains that are going to be part of the Suicide Squad, which also makes them expendable, if you will, for the easy killing. So
I don't think they were too shy about expending some of them in the first one either.
True. So, but I think they still kept the core. You had Deadshot, you had
Harley Quinn,
Harley Quinn, right. You had Boomerang in Killer Croc. Like those are all going to be the main in Katana. They're not going to kill any of those off, But I just think it's
it looks like a bigger Suicide Squad.
Yeah, there's going to be like good 10 to 15 members of it. And it's like when you bring in like Polka Dot Man and other people, like I think it's just going to be very, very insane, which I love.
I'm curious to see how they, and we talked about this with Avengers, is that how do you break up to get all those characters screen time?
Right. Well, I think James Gunn has done it with Guardians,
Yeah.
to a lesser extent. So I think it's definitely definitely
Do we know what the running time is on this movie?
that I don't know. I think it's not even coming out until August. So we
Yeah.
still got, as of this recording, we still got at least another 5 months or so before it comes out.
I would imagine it's at least 2 hours. I would think.
Yeah, I would assume it would be. Why not? Um yeah, so I'm really excited for it. I don't know exactly what to expect,
Hmm.
but I think it's going to be super fun. So that being said, that's going to be a very graphic movie. There's going to be a lot of killing. Anything else you want to add on that before we move on?
No, I'm just really excited for that one. I think that DC is hit or miss. That last Wonder Woman movie was a bit not
Well,
what it.
yeah, it was a different vibe. I
Yeah,
definitely agree with that. Wonder Woman
I wouldn't say. I'm
84.
not gonna say it's bad. It was.
It was different. I'll just put it that way. I'll be a little
Yeah, that
political
would be
with it and
nice.
say it's different. But yeah, the Suicide Squad movie is going to have a lot of violence, a lot of gore, a lot of killing. And what we call in the business a segue, I'm going to segue from the Suicide Squad talking about killing and gore into another movie that's dropping on April 16th onto HBO Max and in theaters.
Hmm.
It's Mortal Kombat. I am so pumped up for this movie. What have you seen any of the trailers yet? I know I sent it to you. I don't
Yeah,
know if you
I checked that one out, and I want it to be good.
I think just by the casting alone, I think it's gonna be phenomenal. So let's rewind back a little bit. The original Mortal Kombat movie, I believe it was what 19.
I
I want to say it was like 1995, 1997, something
96
like that.
somewhere in that area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like the early to mid 90s, and then that one was actually decent enough.
Yep.
It does not hold up as well today because there's a lot of
Obviously.
CGI, and the CGI just kind of takes you out of it because obviously technology changes. And then they had what Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which was absolutely horrendous in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't even think I watched the whole thing.
Oh, it was horrible. It was horrible. But
Yeah, there was
this
one
one,
more, wasn't there? Wasn't there another one?
no, because I'm actually reading.
I thought there was another one.
There was an animated flick.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
But yeah, so I'm actually reading the Wikipedia page right now, and it said in 1997, Robin Show's original Mortal Kombat contract was a 3-picture deal.
Hmm.
But after the release of Annihilation, it was shelved due to Annihilation's poor reception and disappointing box office performance. So
Mm.
now we're doing this one, and I just want to talk about some of the cast here. So I'm not as familiar with a lot of the roles that they've been in before, but they have Louis Tan, who is going to play Cole Young. He's a British actor and model known for his roles in Netflix's Iron Fist, the AMC series Into the Badlands.
Hmm.
He played Shatterstar in Deadpool 2.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool. Then you have, let me see, who's playing Scorpion. You're going to have, uh, I can't even pronounce his name, and I'm not going to even bother to try it, but he's a Japanese actor. Like, so they're really focusing on the Japanese actors for all, like, for example, like Raiden
Hmm.
is actually going to be played by a Japanese actor, which I think is awesome because I believe I want to say not it wasn't Christopher Lee, it was somebody I can't remember the guy's name for the original Mortal Kombat movie, but he did
Hmm.
not remind me of Raiden at all.
No.
Typical like a whitewashing type thing. So I really like seeing a lot of you know Asian actors being brought in. So, oh yeah, so the gentleman, the actor that plays Hogan or Hogun, as you will, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so one of the Warriors 3 and
Hmm.
Thor is going to be playing Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat. So I
Mm.
thought that was really cool casting. Let me see who that he's Raiden. Makad Brooks, who we know if you watch the CW, he played James Olsen in Supergirl. He's going to be
Hmm.
playing Jax, which I really think is a good casting
Yep.
choice. Um,
I agree.
and it's almost like some of these actors too. It looks like Joe Taslim is going to be playing Sub Zero. He's an Indonesian actor and martial artist. I want to see what his acting career is here. Let me see. He appeared in the Fast and the Furious as
Okay.
the villainous Jaw. I don't know. I've never watched the Fast and the Furious. Oh, Fast and Furious 6 he was. Uh, he played uh, Manus, the former first officer of Captain Balthazar Edison, who was played by Idris Elba, who's going to be in the Suicide Squad. Uh, that was in Star Trek Beyond. Yeah, so he's been in a couple things too. A lot of like action, a lot of acting credits, like is like action movies and martial arts movies, which I think is really really cool.
They paid a lot of attention, you can tell in the trailers, to the choreography of the fight scenes
Well,
and
that's
the
what I
CGI.
right, and we talked about. I think way back we talked about, not to like mix the two up, but we talked about and I mentioned a little earlier, Netflix's Iron Fist, and the first season was really really rough because the when I can't think of the guy's name. He plays Loras Tyrell in Game of Thrones. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, Finn Jones.
Okay,
Finn
Finn
Jones.
Jones. Thank you. Yeah, he didn't have a whole lot of time to prep when he first signed on. I think they had like 6 weeks or something like that, if that, to like before start shooting. So he didn't really get to train as much. So some of the martial arts stuff was kind of hokey, if you will, and they used a lot of stunt people, which you could tell.
Yeah.
As opposed to like Charlie Cox and Daredevil, which looked a lot more gritty and
He
gruesome.
had all the experience already.
So I just think the Mortal Kombat movie, from looking at the trailer, it really looks like it's going to be close to the source material, because I follow a couple of different Instagram. Oh my god, I'm having such a brain fire. Instagram accounts, that's the word I was looking for. And they actually show, it's like they show a side by side from in game and all the different Mortal Kombat games throughout the year, specifically since 2011 on, and they show it side by side with the movie counterpart and how it's taking like homage and what it's referencing, and I just absolutely love it. I think it's going to be, if you're a fan of the game, I think you'll enjoy the movie. Let's just
And
put
that's
it
how you get the fans in, is getting closer to the source material
right.
sometimes.
Well, and I think it's a very niche market. You know, I think Mortal Kombat, everybody's like action movie. So it's kind of like, it's very similar in my opinion to the Marvel movies. You're going to get the general population that wants to just go see like, oh, this is going to be a cool movie. This is going to be action. This is going to be this. But when you have like fans of the comic books that get all those other little Easter eggs that the general public doesn't know, you know, I think
it's not much more interesting.
Yeah. So I just think that's really cool, and I think it's going to be playing very close to the chest compared to the video game.
My what scares me is and we've seen this happen in tons of other movies, right? Where the choreography is great, the CGI is great, characters do a good job performing, and the story just doesn't hold. And I'm hoping it doesn't suffer from that, because I think they've done a lot of video game movies. So not just Mortal Kombat. Remember, we had a Street Fighter movie, which was,
but that was a long while ago,
okay,
wasn't it?
But what I'm saying is, anytime they've done fighting movies, video game based movies in general don't do well. Video game fighting movies tend to do a lot less. There was a Tekken movie that was unknown. I think there was a couple other games that they tried with it, and they just don't do well. You know, video game movies in general, the only franchise that's had success really as a franchise is Resident Evil.
Well, I was gonna say Resident Evil, or yeah, I'm trying to think of what else. Tomb Raider did okay.
Did Monster Hunter, and that got horrible reviews.
But to be fair, I don't even know the source material for Monster Hunter.
But that's what I'm saying. But they try, when you base movies off of games, they don't tend to do as well. I'm trying to think off the top of my head of a successful game movie that was like.
But I will put this little caveat in right now. Since the Marvel franchise, since Iron Man to the first Avengers, what other video game movie has been really made theoretically, in theory, like since the MCU kind of blew up, right? And they showed that it's capable of doing a fun action story with, that you could, if you did it a certain way, you can make the argument that all MCU movies, it's the antagonist and the protagonist both have similar powers, and it's just like cookie cutter back and forth. And I can get with that. I can understand.
In that case, it's the opposite problem, where they try to base games off these movies and they're bad.
Well, that too, but well, we'll get to that in a second. But what I'm saying is, since the MCU has come out with the formula, if you will, on
Set
what
a bar.
makes
It set the bar.
right. But I mean, like, I think, starting maybe I'll be wrong. Let's see how Mortal Kombat does. But I think if they stay somewhat true to the source material and then they modernize it for the current times, give or take, they
Mhm.
can have something where they have a coherent story. They have
Yep.
like the emotional hooks, but they also have the really cool fight scenes. I think you can start a franchise from this because you could theoretically, how many Mortal Kombat games have there been? You
Well,
know,
how many characters are there with
well, that's what I'm
backstory?
saying. And you can continue to build on that. Right now it's going to be, I'm assuming, Shang Tsung and Shiva and Goro, maybe. And then again, you can do
Sonya's always involved. Sonya
no,
Blade.
no, but I mean, as far as villains, like Shang
Oh,
Tsung,
villain.
and then like
Yeah.
Shao Kahn, and then I can't remember all the other major um villains, but the one that can go through time, the collector,
Yep.
all the other ones moving forward. Uh you can theoretically do a bunch of sequels depending on who you kill off. I mean,
Yep.
obviously, have Sub-Zero and Scorpion probably not be killed off because those are going to
Yep.
be your main characters. That's your Captain America and Iron Man right there. So, um, yeah,
We'll
I just
see.
think
I mean, I'm hoping it's going to be good. I'm excited for it because I've been waiting for a good Mortal Kombat movie, like to just satisfy a urge for what it's about. Because we all know Mortal Kombat's over the top, gory. It's always been that way
right,
from its inception. And we don't see a lot of movies like that are kind of non-horror movies.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Mortal Kombat's pushing that it will probably even be classified as a horror movie for some people. Like
Right. Well,
some of
yeah.
the
I mean,
sequences that I've seen.
you have your Rambos and your blood
Yeah.
sports and all the other stuff like that. That could also be very violent and gory too. But you're right. You're right. I think it's going to be very interesting. I hope it's going to be doing well. But check it out on April 16th on HBO Max, or go, depending if you're vaccinated or if you feel comfortable going out in public, go check it out in the theater.
Yeah.
Because the theaters could use some help too. But let's segue from one video game to another. And KB, you wanted to very quickly touch on, we mentioned it off air, the Avengers video game.
Mhm.
What did you
Yeah.
want to talk about that?
Yeah, the Avengers game. I don't know how far Jay Free has played. I don't know. Have you touched the Hawkeye material
I
yet?
have not. Kate Bishop was the last
I
I've done.
finished the Hawkeye material. It was really good. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Fantastic. But the
My
game has the same problem.
It's
When
what
you
this is
get
repetitive, the same
when you get
maps.
through that material, you're just like, in that material is amazing. And
Right.
that's the weird thing about it is the material is just through the roof on how good it is graphic wise, the storytelling, the voice, that like everything, like the money they're dumping into this game. I don't know how much longer they can support it because I was just checking out a YouTube video today about somebody who's talking about how poorly the game is doing online. So they used, I guess, Steam. On Steam, you have a way of tracking who's playing. Like you can look at a game and see who's playing by the hour.
Right.
And they're down to like 400 people a day sometimes,
That's
which
crazy.
is nothing
Right.
for traffic on a game like that, right? Like now this Hawkeye material probably boosted it a little bit, but it's gonna go back down. Obviously, like I said, like for me, I
So let me
played
let
it.
me let me ask you a question though. So real quick, when they talk about online, are they talking about people like teaming up and playing like multiplayer online? Or are they
I
talking
don't know how I don't know how Steam gets their
okay,
numbers.
because I was gonna say,
You
is
know what I
that
mean?
players, and to your point,
I think it's
really,
just people on the game playing.
yeah. Well, to be quite frank, what I feel about the game is that, and I don't know if they haven't coded it yet or if they're working on stuff, but from some of the things I was reading, is even with like the Hawkeye mission, like it's almost done after the fact. So there's no real interaction with like Hawkeye and Hulk. There's no like speed, what do you say? What's
There's
the
not a
word?
lot of character interaction, no.
Interaction, yeah, character
In
conversation,
general. In
yeah.
general. Yep.
But I mean,
Well,
like even with everything else, when you have like the main core characters that were already designed for the
yep.
game, and you're doing a mission, they comment on things that are happening, around them. Like Ms. Marvel will be like, "Whoa, Hulk, don't be smashing,
Yep.
everything around here."
Yep. There wasn't even a lot of that in the content. Like even like you probably remember there'll be all standing in an elevator or something or a lift
Right,
and like
right.
they have like
Well,
a little side conversation and it's like it's just not really there. But then again, I haven't played with the character enough to interacting with all the
Right.
characters.
So, but I don't think the dialogue was recorded for that. So that's to me is the other biggest issue, is not just the repetitiveness of, if that's a word, of the maps, but in the same maps and the same things. It's just like kind of like a gear hunt. Like it's like a
Yep.
slow grind type thing.
Yep.
But after that, it's like all these other characters. You said you're going to update this. Like, what are you going to roll a new character out every 6 months? I think they just announced
too
maybe
far.
Black
It's too
Black
far.
Panther.
Well, no, that's the next part I was going to get to on this.
Yeah.
Is Crystal Dynamics, Square Enix, they released a roadmap for the next year.
Okay.
And well, not the next year, but coming this year, the next 6 months, whatever it is, introducing a lot of new things into the game. So they're going to be doing Omega level hives that I guess are a lot harder for those people that are playing multiplayer.
Right.
But problem with that is you've lost a lot of the hardcore players already.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's you needed to do that in the beginning.
That's what I'm saying. DLC for a typical video game comes out like maybe 4 or 5 months,
But also, actually, but see, now that's not even true, because if you buy a season pass, especially for a lot of fighting games, they release a character every 5 months.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Like, how it's almost been out for a year already, right? I forget, give or take.
But those fighting games also have a history. That you're talking Tekken 7, Soul
Right.
Calibur, whatever. Like, that's a little different. This game has no history behind it. But they're also doing, they're increasing the level cap, so you can go beyond level 50. They're adding cross-platform, so not cross-platform, at least cross-generation. So if you're on a Series XS Xbox, you can still play, or PS4 and PS5 people can play together.
Yep.
Which they should have anyway. That should be a given, right? Especially with the console shortage, that should be a given. The other thing that they're going to have is they're going to have a patrol mode in the wastelands. So part of the Hawkeye content, the most recent one, is there's a wasteland in the future.
Okay.
So they're going to have this like patrol land where you can supposedly do anything you want with your team and have all these extra missions in it and things like that, objectives, which might bring that kind of open world gameplay feel. You know what I mean? Where they're more in a sandbox than they are kind of following a kind of story-driven mission, so to speak. Not story-driven, but very singularly, if that's a word, objective.
Singular objective.
Singular
yes.
objective missions. Yeah.
I got you.
So you got that. But the most exciting thing, and if you check out the trailer, there's trailers out there. They did release a trailer for the Wars of Wakanda DLC, which they're saying is going to be a mass expansion. Claw's going to be introduced as the villain. So you're going to have another villain to go against with his new character, underlings based on Claw's, Claw underlings, to kind of, make a better, more different characters to fight against. Also, what's her name? Valerie, the woman, if you haven't beaten the game already, spoiler alert, but the woman, I can't remember her name.
Yeah, the evil scientist.
She's going to be a fightable boss.
Okay.
As well. And the Wakanda scenery looks amazing from what I saw.
Okay, cool. Well, that's
good. So there's things coming, and they said, and then the Marvel Cinematic Universe costumes. So they are going to be doing MCU skins.
Oh, awesome.
So there's and then there was other stuff in there. Probably not as important, but there was other like fixes and adjustments and balancing and trying to just, make the gameplay more finer. And they've said this is not it. They said that they're going to be working on this for years to come. But without a massive expansion that changes the get for the player, it's not going to get better. Yeah. I don't think it's going to get better. I'm going to play it because I love Marvel so much, right? Like the stuff comes out, I'll play it, I'll finish it. But after that, I'm just going to put it down again.
Right. No, I mean, that's the thing with games, man. I don't know. I just want to know, on that roadmap, do they have all the characters? Do they have like Winter Soldier?
No, that was just for like this next like.
Oh, I was going to ask if they had Falcon, if they had Winter Soldier, because the next thing we're going to talk about is the Falcon and Winter Soldier. We're 2 episodes in right now, KB, and let's talk about that real quick. So we have a couple of minutes before I have to end the call and bring in our next guest.
Yeah.
So I just want to talk about our overall feelings so far. It's totally different from WandaVision.
Mm-hmm. You're getting a
Each,
more MCU feel here.
yeah, every episode's got a little bit so far. Of the first two has a little bit of an action, adventure type thing. We get a little bit of backstory on both Sam and James Buchanan Barnes, which
Mm-hmm.
I really like. We get to flesh out those characters a little bit as well.
Because you never got to see them enough in the MCU itself. I
Right.
like that we're seeing story and getting to know these characters, and I think that's probably the most important piece of the whole thing, really.
Yes. And I love how we're seeing it through flashbacks with Bucky, with all the stuff he's done in the past,
Yeah.
and the therapist he's working with, which I think is hilarious. And then
Oh, that
also,
second episode was hilarious.
oh, with the two of them, him and Sam face to face, that's like probably my favorite part in that whole episode. Just like they play off each other so well.
Yeah.
Like they're just both like very, very immature toward each other. But I also love the it's not even subtext because he comes right out and says it. But Bucky says, Cap gave you the shield and you gave it away. If he was wrong about you, then he was wrong about me.
Yeah.
And that to me is
like that I died at that scene. I was like, wow, that is
so
perfect.
good.
That is
So
awesome.
good. I really, really like it. I also enjoy the fact that they're bringing in he's the new Captain America, but I'm assuming, and spoiler alert if you don't read the comics,
what's his name? Is it Josh Walker or
John Walker,
John Walker? It's
aka
John Walker,
U.S. agent.
U.S. agent.
And then I can't think of his buddy's name, the code name that he used, like not Starscream. That's a Transformer. I can't remember, but I'm not as familiar with that whole thing in the comic books or that whole arc. But I just love the fact that he might not be a villain per se. He might eventually turn villainous. This new Captain America and new sidekick or new partner, but I really think it's kind of cool because he could turn villain, or it could just be like, hey, like this is what was handed to me. This is the pressure I'm under. I accepted this and I'm just trying to deal with this. Like I'm not trying to replace Steve. And maybe he's getting it wrong along the way, but he's a new Captain America. So I don't know.
Well, I think the wrong thing to say was there was a part where Bucky was like, "Hey, did you?" Or I don't know if it was Bucky or
I think it was Sam.
if it was Sam, but he said, "Hey, have you jumped on a grenade before?"
Oh no, that was Bucky. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, "Yeah, 4 times." And it's like, no, Cap fought Thanos. My question would be, have you fought Thanos? You know what I mean? Like,
but I mean, it's a symbol that right now he's being used as a symbol to bring heroes. It's basically like a government backed. We talked about Civil War years ago with the Sokovia Accords. It's like the same thing. It's the same idea with like this is a government controlled, not even controlled, but like it's good. John Walker has the government's backing. He's a governmental Captain America that's going to do what the government wants. So I mean that can lead to a lot of
he's
issues
not a pure Captain
forward.
America.
Right. So I don't know. I really like it so far. There's a little bit of humor. It's a little bit of drama. There's
good action.
Good. Yeah. So I'm curious. I think we're gonna have.
I was gonna say one last thing from my part is that they didn't cop out on the special effects either. I don't think.
No, I mean, yes. So the Flag Smashers too, by the way, if that's going to be the backing, and we kind of led after the end of the second episode, and spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, but they're going to go confer and talk to one of the villains, aka Helmet Zemo.
Baron Zemo.
Baron Zemo. Yeah, I think they call him it's Helmet Zemo, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm very curious to see where that goes. The next episode.
Is that going to be the same actor from Civil War?
Yes, it was. They showed him at the end of the second episode. So yeah, I can't wait to see it. I am wondering when he's going to get the purple mask, and when we get to it, when we recap, I'm going to work very hard to get our friend Joe from Whatever Bro Films, who's been on multiple Marvel podcasts with us. We're going to try to get him on. But we're going to
on our first podcast. Man.
He was.
Should be on our 100th episode, really.
Well, I don't think we're going to do a Marvel 100th episode. I think we're going to do a best of, and then he might be on 101, maybe starting fresh. On another.
That would be good too. Yeah, put him on 101.
Maybe we'll do that at the tail end of Falcon and Winter Soldier. So that sounds good. But we're going to take a break right now, ladies and gentlemen. Those listening and those viewing the podcast, we're going to just come right back. But those listening to the podcast, we'll take a break, and we'll be back with a very special guest to talk everything about Justice League Snyder Cut on HBO Max. So KB, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you the next time.
Remember, get your geek on.
Get your geek on. I'm going to have to say that now at the end of the episode. Oh, that'll be fun. All right, dude. Talk to you later.
All right. Later,
bye.
bro. Bye.
And welcome back to the Free Your Geek podcast. I am your host, Jay Free, and we have wrapped up all the talk of Falcon and Winter Soldier, the Suicide Squad movie, Marvel's Avengers video game that KB wanted to talk about, and KB had to jump out. So I just upgraded my co-host a little bit here. You may remember this gentleman from the band Sweet Babylon on one of the episodes way back in the day called Geek Speak with Sweet Babylon. Ladies and gentlemen, my co-host for the second half of this podcast, who is going to regale me with his review of the Snyder Cut of the Justice League movie, Mr. Kyle Platt. Kyle, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, see, that was all off the dome, man. First of all, I got to say, and I mentioned this to you before, I already like how you set up your room. I see the Justice League DVD right behind you.
Yeah, set it right up.
I love the mic right there. You're rocking the new Justice League shirt, which I absolutely love.
Right.
That's
right.
phenomenal. And
support that Batfleck.
You have, yes. We'll get to that in a second. And over your, I believe it's your left shoulder. I don't know if this thing is mirrored or not. I'm assuming it is. Yeah, we have. Why don't you let us in on who that funny creature is?
So that creature that's over there, that's Tommy the giraffe from our band Sweet Babylon. He's actually, if you're familiar with the band, he's actually on each and every single one of our album covers. He's all the way in the back in that one. And he's also in the mugshot ones of our new album, New Beginnings. He's been our mascot since basically the beginning of the band. The band started 10 years ago this year, 2011 we started. And yeah, man, it's great. It's been a crazy journey. It's been fun to have him around. And I mean, I know he looks very excited to be here, but I'm excited.
Dude, I got to say, so a couple questions before we actually have you get into the Justice League Snyder Cut movie. And I will say, if I didn't mention it in the opening intro that I did of the podcast, for those watching the video, we are going to spoil this movie. So just be aware of that. Yeah. But I want to go, before we even get there, Kyle, I want to talk about Sweet Babylon. Like I love your band. I love your music. It would be more of a ska punk if I'm not mistaken, if like genre wise, like that's what I'd call it.
Yep.
A lot of like comedy songs too, if I'm not overstepping a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think I love the kind of like the mix that you have. But obviously we're in the middle of this pandemic. So what are you in the band doing to keep yourself busy?
As of right now, what we've been currently doing is basically we have a practice every week. We've been working on some new material. We're getting ready we're trying to hopefully have a show at the end of the year to celebrate our 10 years this year. So that would be the goal. But as of right now, we're just taking our time as everyone else is. We're just, writing new songs, getting ready for album number 4. And yeah, we're just trying to figure out ways to basically get people out there. That's why we started actually our new website where you can buy physical copies of our CDs. If you don't mind me plugging in, that's Sweet Babylon. That's sweetbabylon.bigcartel.com.
Okay.
And I physically wrap it up myself and I mail it to you. It's been fun. We got a couple of orders. We have one of our t-shirts on there as well. So it's really cool to send out merch to the people. And I try to put a little personal thing in there with every order, just as a big thank you. We still have our Bandcamp account as well to do digital music as well, because I know everybody's not into the physical stuff. So if you go to bandcamp.com, sweetbabylon.bandcamp.com, you can buy our music there digitally. Besides that, we've been just working on new music. We're trying to make sure that the dust isn't, getting too hard on our shoulders. I mean, last year we were planning on doing a lot more. It's crazy to think that 2020 is already done. We did a couple shows last year. And in 2019, like we got to open up for the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones at Hampton Beach. And we were kind of like excited to like see where 2020 was going to lead us. And sadly, it didn't just affect us, it affected the entire world, sadly. So, one day at a time, that's how we look at it. And we're hoping for 2021 to be kind of that switch. Izzy's already got his vaccine rolling. I'm still slacking, but I'm gonna be again on that, and hopefully we're gonna be out on the road soon, and hopefully with some bigger things. And can't wait for that new album to come out because I'm telling you right now, I'm excited for it.
I can tell by just either your voice, man, like the excitement in your voice, your tone. So I'm excited for you, and I really want to kind of go back real quick, and we'll put all your websites, all your plugs, we'll plug all the things that in the description of the podcast, and I'll even like share it to Facebook and whatnot on our page, and I'll tweet it out and all that fun stuff. But what I really like that you said right there is like even just the DIY, you're doing everything yourself with the physical copies of the CDs. Even if you put like a little personalized thank you, I think that's great. I think, you know, to your point, like I think the momentum for everybody got stalled in 2020. Like everything was like everybody had like things going on and everything just grinded. Yeah, I guess that's the best way to say grinded to a halt. And yeah, it's just it's stuff that, but it's cool that you're taking that and you're kind of segueing, okay, well, you know what? 10-year anniversary of the band's formation. We're going to be working on a new album. We're going to be doing all these other things. So even though you can't necessarily go out there and play for crowds right now, and where you had that momentum going, at least now you can say, okay, well, we're staying focused. We're doing what we need to do at this time right now. And then hopefully, like you said, by the summer, everything, I mean, I don't think the virus is going away anytime soon, but if, you know, people that choose to get vaccinated or don't mind going out and wearing masks to these shows and, you know, for lack of a better term, like keeping safe even at these shows, but still going out and have like partying and have a good time and listen to good music. I definitely think I wish the best for you guys for that, because I'd love to be able to go to a show, you know, when you guys are have like a summer show, because I got my first shot of I get my first vaccine, so I'm on my way to getting vaccinated, so I'd be right out there. I don't know if I'm a little too old to like mosh pit or anything else that might be happening at your shows. So I might be back chilling with like a lighter, swinging it back and forth.
Yeah.
But you know, I'll be enjoying myself, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's with the way, like last year we did a couple shows during COVID. We did get to experience it, like it just felt different from that aspect of like we played a couple shows behind plexiglass. We did a couple shows where, you know, people in the audience had the masks on, we were further away, you know, it's like, you know, people had to sit down for the shows. So it's definitely different, especially when you're playing behind plexiglass. I'm going to say during the whole show, I had to keep constantly staring at myself because the lights are on and it's just a mirror. So you can't see anybody.
You're like, hey, this guy's really enjoying the show.
Yeah. All right. This guy, he knows every word. All right. But yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you. Like, I would love to, you know, start heading out more. But obviously, we want people to be safe as well. Especially, you know, I'm not going to be in the mosh pit either. I just turned 30 this year, and I'm currently on the end point of a back injury. Earlier in March, I threw out my back, and it's slowly getting back to normal. So. Yay, old age! You know, it is what it is.
You sleep wrong, and then you have to be like in a wheelchair for like 3 days. Yeah, I get that. I get that. No, I totally. One of the other cool things I want to mention before we get into the Justice League, and I'll we can talk about it if you want. And then this is going to be kind of like from left field and a curveball, so I don't want to embarrass you too much. If you don't want to talk about it, we don't have to talk about it. But I have to say, your TikToks, I love watching you on TikTok. Because not only do you do like comedy sketches on there, but you can also show off some of your singing ability and your vocal range. I don't know her name, so I'm going to butcher this, but there's a woman on there that asks you to duet a bunch of stuff. And I think my favorite TikTok of you is when you're doing the verse of Among Us.
Oh yeah.
I really like, I highly recommend that.
Her name was Alexa Chalnick.
Okay.
That's yeah.
So what she basically does is she always does something. She basically sings whatever, like pop culture. I don't know if it's the same woman, but I know somebody else does. There's another one, similar woman who sings from the opposite perspective of whatever the song might be. So like she does. There's another girl that does one she sings it from the vantage point of Delilah from the Plain White Tees. Hey there, Delilah. So it's the same song, but she does the verse from the other side, which I think is pretty cool. But this is a little bit different because this woman talks about different things with like pop culture or whatever else is going on, and then like gives the duetter. I don't know if that's whoever's doing the duet with her. I don't know what the proper phrasing is for that, to like sing a verse and respond to what she's saying. So she does a whole thing about Among Us, and you talk about how, I forget, I don't play the game, but I know, like, who the real killer is and all that fun stuff on Among Us, whatever you call the terminology. This is why I sound so, but I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was a songwriting challenge. That's why I love doing, try to be as creative as I possibly can. My TikTok I started doing because of the coronavirus and keeping indoors. Like, I was really bored. I used to make YouTube videos when I was younger. You can find them on YouTube somewhere. I've done all of Sweet Babylon's music videos so far, where I filmed it, edited. I even did a TV show for basically just a little bit before the band started. It was a late night TV show where it was called Late Night with Uncle Fright, where I was the editor, director, writer, and I wasn't a personality on the camera. I just was behind the scenes, and it was a lot of fun doing that. And I'm all self-taught. That was the really cool thing. I got to expend on it more when I was in high school, but yeah, when the band started, I just kind of focused more on the band. And then when we had COVID, I was just like, okay, maybe I can start hopping on these TikToks. So my accounts for TikTok is the same as most of my other accounts. It's at Mr. Kyle Platt. But the stuff that I do is, either movies that I like where it's the audio and I try to act it out, like Mrs. Doubtfire. I love Mrs. Doubtfire. I love any Robin Williams movies. Hence, I don't know if that row that I'm pointing at, it's all Robin Williams movies going up the wall.
Wow.
But
so for those from the audio, there's listening to audio only, there's probably, I'd say, what is that, 15 to 20, maybe a little bit more.
Nope. There's this whole area is all DVDs, including down here.
But I'm saying
it's quite a big wall.
For Robin Williams, like that row.
Oh,
how many?
Yeah,
like 15 to 20 at least.
I'd say maybe 25 or
okay.
a little bit more, because I even got like random things as well. But it's basically what I look for is, like, I try to do stuff that I find funny. Like, I've done Robin Williams, I've done a couple of Jim Carrey stuff. I did some Chris Farley skits. I love comedy and trying to represent it without being disrespectful or anything like that. But when it comes to like that Alexa Chalnick TikTok where I sing Among Us, that was creative for me because she wrote just her part and she wanted people to write their own parts. So that was kind of a creative thing for me to do, where I have not played Among Us either. But my drummer Lenny does. And he's told me basically like how the game works. And I just wanted to write a funny skit where it's like, okay, how can I deny that I killed somebody without trying to get caught? So I'm not going to spoil how I do it, but it's funnier things like that where I'm also trying to work on, doing more stuff where I'm singing as well, because that's just fun to experience, like, doing stuff with your own voice instead of just using the audios that they give to you. I
did see you, and you did a couple of duets, I think, just like regular singing duets with other people too, right? Where they on the TikTok they let you do side by side, and then they have the text saying, this is going to be my part, this is your part, this is your, like, so when they put the almost like karaoke and you guys do duets together, and I just think it's really good. And I did see, like, speaking of Jim Carrey, I believe you did like a Grinch skit.
I did.
So I love the fact that you're so creative. You actually kind of remind me a little bit of me, but you're just way more musically inclined and talented than I am in that. But yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like, I love doing comedy stuff. I love doing videos. I love creating, you know what I mean? Like, my creating, and it's a little bit different from like writing songs, but I'm part of this is going to sound super nerdy, but this is for your geeks. So I do a Dungeons and Dragons game where we write our own like adventures and stuff like that. So I just wrote like a 6-chapter adventure that, like, I did like all the lore and stuff. It's super nerdy, but it's just like, it's my own, mind coming up, and it had a lot of homage to both Buffy the Vampire Slayer and the sister spin-off series Angel, where I just did a bunch of characters and names and stuff and had it all influenced with that. But it was just like, I just ran a campaign with that and it was kind of fun. So I like to write stories. I like doing video. I like to edit audio and video, hence why we're doing Zoom recordings now for our podcast. So I can do both an audio and a video component like we used to do when we had a studio. So I love doing all that. And then, yeah, just the fact that the comedy aspect, my best friend and I used to do improv videos all the time. Every Sunday, we used to call it Weekend Wrap Up. And we would just sit in front. We'd have a black and white filter, kind of like what we're doing, that I'm doing now with the video. And we just sit on the couch and we just riff off each other and just try to be funny for like 10 minutes. And then we'd cut it all together and edit it and then put it out, and had a small little following. And then it kind of fell off like everything else does. But yeah, I'm glad at least in the pandemic with a lot, it's tough. Everybody's kind of home. You're finding a lot of creative outlets to keep busy, to just keep your mind occupied, but also like cultivate that talent even further that you have, because you are very funny. You do have a great singing voice, and all of that, just, you can really see that kind of shine through in your TikToks, and whatnot. So yeah, we'll definitely link out to that in the show notes as well, but definitely check him out because Kyle's got some great stuff. Speaking, you're very welcome. Speaking of great stuff, you reached out to me a while ago and you said, "Hey man, when are you doing an episode on the Snyder Cut of Justice League? Because I want in." And luckily for you, sir, KB has not watched it yet, and 4 hours is a big commitment for any of us right now. But being a fan of the DC movies, we were previously, you were not here for this, but we talked about the Suicide Squad, the James Gunn Suicide Squad. The Red Band trailer that dropped looks phenomenal. I'm so glad he's going to put all these obscure characters and bring them to the forefront, even if he kills them off. I can't wait to see what they're going to do with that. But on more of a darker level, if you will, a grittier level, not even darker, let's say grittier, we have the Snyder Cut version of the Justice League. So I'm going to let Kyle kind of take the lead with this and run with this, but I want him to review what he loves about this movie. So there are going to be spoilers. So I want him to just give his overall thoughts of the movie, some of the things that he liked and how it like almost exceeds expectations, because for those unaware, Snyder did have to drop out when the original film was being made. I wasn't sure if it was his daughter or somebody in the family had passed, so he had to step down, and Joss Whedon stepped in. And again, I love Joss Whedon's mind. Apparently, the blowback that's coming for him now, with him being a difficult director to work for, or mind to work for, that's neither here nor there for any of us to judge. But his vision versus Snyder's vision, from what I've seen so far, and to be quite frank, I think I'm on part 4. It's really cool because they break it into like different parts, like different chapters almost. Yeah. So I just started chapter 4. So I believe I'm like halfway done, and I like what I see. It's just it's a big time commitment. And when you're working, a 9 to 5 and you got other stuff going on, it's kind of tough to like be like, hey, take 4 hours at the end of the night to do this. And, but I want to kind of turn the reins over to you, sir. I want you to give me your overall thoughts, and then I'll tell you what I like so far. When we get to that, if we get to that part, I'll tell you my favorite part so far of the 4 chapters that I've seen. So please take it away, sir.
I'm like, oh, all right, my turn. But the Justice League that we got originally in 2017, I remember being so stoked. Just because, like, hey, we get to see, Ben Affleck come back as Batman. For me personally, I know a lot of people are against Affleck and like they don't like his portrayal of Batman. To tell you the truth, after watching the Snyder Cut, my band is so against Affleck to a certain extent. Like they're like, he's not the best one. All right, relax. But for me, I really do feel like this movie truly has him shine as Bruce Wayne. The 4-hour running time for me personally, I mean, I sat through Avengers Endgame, which was over 3 hours long. With it just being an extra hour longer, for me, I was like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to sit down. I set up my couch and I was just like, okay, let's do this. I'm going to have a big drink right on the side. We're going to just relax. We're going to see what happens. Pause for pee breaks. But, otherwise if I was in the theater, I would have rushed to the bathroom and came right back. It definitely was worth the wait. I was saying to some friends where I was just like, this version of the movie, I don't think we would have gotten 2017, minus his daughter passing and stuff like that, which I really do feel like it was a good move on his end to be like, hey, I'm going to be there for my family. This movie can wait. I really felt Warner Brothers probably should have waited and probably, went with Zach's ideas and stuff like that. I know there was a lot of fighting in between on both ends, but I feel like that they probably should have just, waited for him to finish it up, only because it's just like that's a family tragedy. And, no job comes before
family comes first. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I would argue real quick, because I just want to do a quick counterpoint to that. I would argue that it's a good thing that they didn't wait for him, because my thought would be what would the studio have him cut from that movie?
Yeah.
With all the backlash that has happened, and now that they said that, hey, this was not Snyder's vision, like now we can see the unedited, unbridled vision that he had for this movie, which is, from what I've seen so far, awesome. By the way, I just wanted to put that out there, but please continue.
Yeah. What I was gonna also say with that is that even though that they didn't wait for him to finish it, when he did finish it, there's a lot of added things that he didn't even originally plan on. Like we got to see Jared Leto. For those, like we said, it's spoilers. We get to see Martian Manhunter, and it is so amazing to see these characters being brought back. I really said to a lot of people that this movie was going to be Ben Affleck's and Jared Leto's redemption, because going back to Ben Affleck, I was saying he makes an incredible Bruce Wayne. I 100% believe he is the best Bruce Wayne. When it comes to Batman, I would love to see his own solo movie to experience him in his own element as Batman, because I feel like we have two movies now where he had to share that spotlight, so he doesn't get those big action scenes like we got to see in Batman vs Superman: The Ultimate Edition. We got to see a little bit more. We got to see a deeper dive into that, and we got to see that awesome fight sequence when he's trying to save Martha. No, but in Justice League, we get to see, a little bit more of that, and we get to see a lot more of him as Bruce Wayne. And I really do believe that he fully gets it. Like he said himself, he's a comic book fan. We're not going to count Daredevil here. We're going to talk about the DC. We're not talking Marvel. But I really do believe that he understood what he was getting asked to do. They were going for the Dark Knight comics, Frank Miller version, and he delivered on that. I really feel like that his character is definitely going through a lot of trauma, and he obviously went through Robin's death. As you see in Batman vs Superman, he has the suit. They will extend on that with the Joker. So I am telling you, the nightmare sequence, because you haven't gotten to it yet.
No,
it is my favorite part of the movie. So let's go from the beginning.
Yeah.
And then get to your part, and then we'll go to the end.
Sure, let's do it.
It starts off with Superman's death at Batman vs Superman. It doesn't start off with those two boys. Hey, tell me about your life and how you like Earth with the mustache CGI. It was, when I saw that in theaters, I'm like, what's up with his face? What's going on here? It was definitely like already a bad start. With Snyder's cut, it starts off correct, where it's like, hey, we're starting right as soon as he was penetrated, where he penetrates Doomsday, and we get to see him die basically all over again. So you get those emotions all over again. And it's also for the people that have not seen Batman versus Superman. This is something where it explains it quick. It's not like, hey, we have to explain exactly what happened. We just show you. We show Luthor in the spaceship, and then we get to we go, what is that? Like, if this is your first time watching any of the DC movies, you go, what's that? You'll see it later on in the movie. A lot of the same plot points from the Snyder and the Joss Whedon cut are kind of similar, but it's completely different. Where I know that's, you're like, wait, what? How is it possible? What I'm saying is a lot of Zach's main plot points was in the Whedon cut, and this one he gets to expand on it. With 4 hours, he gets to go individually to each character and explain who they are, what their special talents are, why they feel the way that they feel. And I just feel like, we don't get a oh, I'm not a real superhero from Flash in this version. I see like, hey, I'm one of the best here and I deserve to be here, because like in Whedon's cut, it feels like, why are you here? If you
Right.
feel like you're not going to be able to do this, then why are you here? Um, when it comes to Aquaman, personally, I love that he had more of a grit to him. Then that's the first basic the scene right after we see the death. We see him see Bruce Wayne go and get Aquaman.
Which I believe we saw in
Obviously,
the Whedon version as well. Well, I don't want to say Whedon version, but
yes.
the original version. But this gets expanded on as well.
And the one thing that I loved that they did not do that Whedon did, Whedon had that stupid wall on the side. You see Bruce look to the side, and it's supposed to explain the mother boxes. They did not have that in this version because it didn't make any sense. It's like, what? Why would that be over there? Why would this random town know about the mother boxes when Aquaman himself he knows that it's in a secret location, and he knows, like it's not supposed to be talked about to city people. Like, what is that for?
Right.
So I love that they kind of made it more like how we saw the original trailer in 2016, where it's like he seems more pissed off that you're in my area, instead of like, you're just crazy, Batman. Sorry, I'm not dealing with you, man. You're crazy, and I'm just gonna dive away. What I will say that I thought was kind of weird but funny at the same time was when Aquaman's going back to the water and he's like, "You crazy, Bruce Wayne." The random townspeople start singing, and I was just like, "Wait, what?" I liked it, but I was just like, Bruce Wayne's just like, "What's going on?" Okay, all right, we're singing. All right, I'm gonna go, and he just takes off. Then we start with Wonder Woman. We get to see that scene where they go to I guess it's like a museum, and the children are there for a field trip, and then it gets taken by terrorists. I like that they expanded that, and we get our first curse words in the beginning of this scene. So we get to see them dropping F-bombs. And then once you hear that F-bomb in this version compared to the other version, you're just like, oh yeah, this is rated R. I'm excited. You get really excited by just hearing the one curse word, and you're just like, okay, cool. Like, what I'm going to say is that if you want to watch this with your kids, watch the Josh version, because it's more oriented towards kids. And I feel like it's going to be something that's not going to really affect them, because they're kids. They're not going to really understand like what's going on. Like, the whole fear tagline was kind of silly for me, but for a kid, that works for a kid. Like, oh yeah, they smell fear, and they have the random Russian family and stuff like that. So it's just like, okay, these things work for a kid. For an adult, where it's like, hey, you're going to see Batman possibly kill somebody. You're going to see Wonder Woman kill somebody. It's more of like, if you're willing to be an adult about this, watch this movie.
Right.
So when we see, Wonder Woman kicking ass in her very first scene, it's just like, okay, all right, here we go.
I'm in.
What I love, another thing that I love about this movie is when we get to Cyborg. This is Cyborg's movie. I know I was talking about Bruce Wayne and how like it's his journey to get everybody together, but you gotta love that Cyborg's story is finally being told. And Ray Fisher was saying all this stuff about Whedon, where it's just like, he cut out a lot of my movie, like a lot of me out of the movie, and he treated us like crap on set. Like, it's like, when you see the actual version of it, you're just like, why did we cut all this stuff? There's so much family plot lines where there's more emotion involved, where it's just like, okay, so like the mother box is in, he has a messed up family, whatever, it's okay. It's like every single person that we get more emotion, and we get more like, hey, that's me in there. Like, I could relate to this character, or I could relate to that character. So seeing Cyborg as a teenager being stripped, his childhood basically stripped away, his family taken away from him, it's definitely kind of a more hard hitting version.
He has that animosity toward his father, right off the
Yeah.
bat, because it shows him at the football game with him and his mother, and he does like this awesome play. I don't know if he's a quarterback or receiver. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he evades like all these tackles and scores a touchdown. and he looks up and his mother's cheering, and then his dad's not there because his dad's, you know, typical. It's a stereotypical, like, oh, he's working, he's trying to provide for the family, but it's also seen as, oh, my father's kind of cold and distant from the rest of the family type of thing.
Yeah. The one thing that when I first saw the Justice League movies and stuff like that, like whether it's Whedon, but watching the Snyder Cut as well, it personally just makes me smile every time we see Cyborg's dad, because for me, I love the Blues Brothers, and his dad is in Blues Brothers 2000 where he plays the other brother, and I'm just like, yo, all right, cool, I'm seeing him in a movie again, all right, this is great. And I know he's a well-talented actor, he's a great singer as well, but it was just like kind of exciting to see him, you know, where it's like, oh, all right, cool, all right, let's see where he goes.
That's cool. Yeah, my favorite, I don't know if it comes up to that point if we're going to get there, but the Flash introduction where he's applying for the job. I don't know if we want to talk about that or if you're going to get to that, but that's been my favorite part of the movie so far.
Yeah.
Cuz I think
God.
No. So I love how he's like, he's, you know, we have seen the scene where, you know, Bruce Wayne's at his place, then he throws the batarang and everything gets slowed down. I think there was like a statistic online about how much like slow motion they use in this movie, but I love the fact that he's applying for this job at like this pet store, and I'm assuming he makes eye contact with this gorgeous woman. I'm assuming it's going to be Iris. I'm assuming that's supposed to be Iris, and she gets into a kerfuffle with you know, it's a stereotypical guy driving a big rig, drops his burger, and now all of a sudden his car's about to collide with her. She goes flying through the air and everything slows down, and Barry Allen rushes out, saves her, makes eye contact with her, and the car I think also hits like a hot dog stand. So he ends up, the woman who's interviewing him looks around for him, and then he's in the pen with the dogs, and he's got like a hot dog, and I thought it was like, for all the seriousness and grit of the movie, I think that was just like a great point where it's kind of like a little bit light to just kind of lighten the mood just a little bit. And I feel it was a good break from like all the dark, which I think is a good mix and a balance that you have to kind of make there too.
I definitely feel like his comic relief for this movie is done correctly in this version, where I feel like there's too many like Flash jokes that are like, it's not landing correctly. In the Whedon version, everybody's telling jokes for no reason. Like Bruce Wayne is not really a jokester. Like he'll make like his one joke where I was like, that's a Bruce Wayne line, is, oh, what's your superpower? I'm rich. Right. Like that's a Batman line. Like that's a Batman joke where he's like, you know, he knows that he's very somber and he's very like he's been tormented for years. Like he doesn't have like the luxury like everybody else had. He lost his parents, even though he's rich, doesn't mean that he had a great life. So when we get to hear lines like, "Oh, did Steve Trevor tell you that?" Like it's like, "Oh, what? Shut up! What are you talking about?" You know, it's kind of refreshing to see these jokes land a lot better. Where he was like, he pulls out the hot dog. He's like, "Oh yeah, you know, these dogs, like when they get scared, it's better to have a meat treat for them and stuff like that." I'm like, that's brilliant. But that scene alone, like it just gives him more of humanity. Like even with the scenes with his father in the jail and stuff like that, like you feel that. But like when you see like just like the generic, like, oh, a resume, oh, here you go, like,
right,
you know,
all
like
the
the
little idiosyncrasies,
paper, like, yeah, it's like that's real, like that happens, like everybody has that happen to them where they're just like, oh shit, I forgot my my resume at home and stuff like that, even though he could go, all right, here's my resume, you know. But he Ezra Miller, I'm seeing him in this version makes me excited for the Flashpoint movie. Like I am so ready to see what he's going to accomplish next. And it definitely was like kind of like a breath of fresh air to see like them from the standpoint. When we, but going back to what you were saying about the slow motion, out of this movie, I will say my only big gripe that I have, like it's not a real gripe, but it's like we probably could have cut down some of the running time to get rid of the slow motion. not everything had to be in slow motion. That's my only problem, is because like I love the plot points, but there's one scene where the Amazonians are running away when Steppenwolf comes in, and she's running away, obviously in the tunnel, and it's in slow motion, and I understand that, like, yeah, that's an intense shot, but then when she's out, she's running away, but she's like this big on the screen, and there's nothing else except scenery and this one person, and she's running away in slow motion. I'm like, you didn't need that there.
Right.
You don't need that
You
there.
could have put that in more real time.
And the cyborg scene where they're all screaming in the crowd, yay! Like they're all in slow motion. You don't need that.
Right.
You could have did that in real time. Like if you want to slow it down just a little bit, but
I want to say one thing before we move on to one thing regarding the Flash, because you mentioned the Flashpoint movie. Are you a fan? And this is just off the cuff, but are you a fan of any of the CW shows? The DC CW shows?
So I have not seen many of the shows. Like my drummer is and my bass player are. They've watched all the seasons of Flash, Green Arrow, Supergirl. I love the fact that Kevin Smith got involved with that stuff as well, where it's just like, cool, we finally get to see Kevin direct stuff where it's like DC related. But for me, I have not caught up on it. Like I have not caught up on Gotham, but I understand that they're doing a great job.
Well, no,
like if I was to tell you what TV show, I was going to say, if I was to tell you what TV show, what show I used to watch back in the day.
Well, who didn't love Terry Hatcher?
Clark.
Who did not love Terry Hatcher? She's timeless. Great Lois. Yeah. No, but what the reason I was going to point out is I don't know if any of your band members spoiled it for you, but last season before COVID, they did a whole Crisis on Infinite Earths where they had all the multiverse collide.
Oh, I read.
Ezra Miller.
I was going to say
showed up and he saw our Barry Allen from the CW, and what happened was he's like, "Who are you?" And our Barry Allen on the CW show, Grant Gustin goes, "I'm the Flash." He's like, "The Flash." That's a good. So I think that's how he's going to get his name, is he's going to go back in time and see Grant Gustin in the multiverse when he opens up, when the universes start separating. Because at the end of the Crisis storyline, the crossover they did, they combined all the CW shows into one universe, but then they essentially reset the multiverse. So now the movies are one multiverse. The HBO Max series are on different universes and multiverses too. So like Swamp Thing and Titans and all that are all different universes. So I think it's really cool that they ended up sneaking him in. And if you haven't seen it, I'll send you the YouTube video of that.
I remember them talking about that episode, because like I remember hearing we were going to hear Mark Hamill, not Mark Hamill. We were going to see Kevin Conroy as Batman. I remember hearing that we were going to see the return of, I forgot the actor's name who plays Superman. Todd Ingram. No. Todd Ingram from Scott Pilgrim. He played Superman in Superman Returns, I think.
Yeah, he plays Ray Palmer in Legend. Well, he was playing Dr. Ray Palmer in Legends of Tomorrow. Brandon Routh is
all right.
The guy's name. Yeah. But he played the Atom on the DC's Legends of Tomorrow. He was on Arrow as the Atom, and then he segued over to DC Legends of Tomorrow. But then he double dutied. He played Clark Kent and Ray Palmer, back to back. So I thought it was kind of cool.
That is really cool.
But
I love that
sorry.
I was gonna say I love that DC is finally giving like fans like it seems like they're trying to do their best with pleasing fans. Like I know the TV shows have been trying to give more and more, because like, hey, this is every week. Like we have to deliver every week for us to continue on the show and keep it going. When it comes to the movies, like I really feel like our Justice League that we got in 2017 was a very big letdown for me personally. I kept trying to tell the band, I'm like, yeah, Batfleck was awesome in that. And they're like, what are you, crazy? Like, he wasn't good. And I'm like, no, he was good. Like, please, just believe me. And then, like, when the Snyder Cut came out, as of I am recording this with you, the band talked to me last practice where they were saying, oh, we started watching it. My drummer, Lenny, he finished it. He said, oh, I thought it was great. My bass player is still watching it as far as I know right now. But they seem to enjoy it more, where I'm just like, all right, this is what I want, like, but what I feel is to skip forward a little bit as we as we deal with Steppenwolf and everything like that, we go into the nightmare sequences on multiple parts of the movie too. We see the nightmare sequences, but it's in Cyborg's nightmare that we see a different version of the nightmare sequence, but then we see Bruce Wayne's nightmare sequence all the way at the end. It leaves you wanting more, and the fans are like, please give us more. We want more. We want to see more of the Snyder Cut. It's a completely different movie for me personally, where like Steppenwolf looks completely different.
Right.
He seems more of like a force not to be messed with. But then again, it kind of reminds me of, like, hey, I'm this big bad guy, but you don't even know what's behind me. Like, and we're talking about, Darkseid, and like when you see Darkseid for the first time, it's like, oh my God, dude. I remember watching reading comic books of Darkseid and just being like, oh my God, man. Like if they ever made him into a movie version, like I wonder what that would be like. And we finally see it. Like to wonder why he was cut from the original movie blows my mind. Like it's like, why would you cut this out? But I feel like maybe this was just a cut for time where they were just like, this is going to be way too long if we keep it. But I'm just like, that's just lazy writing, because then you have no chance of a sequel. And the way that the movie kind of ended for 2017's version is we see them on top of like whatever the Steppenwolf was in. I guess it's like a crater type thing or whatever. It was up, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But they're standing on top of it, and then we get credits, and we see Lex Luthor and Deathstroke, and they're like, "We're gonna start our own league." Okay.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Like, are we getting a sequel? What does that mean? Do we get a sequel? And like nothing came from it. So we got an Aquaman after this version. We got a Wonder Woman after this version. And it's just like, it's like, oh, well, this doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense now with the Snyder version, where I forgot who said it, but they were just like, oh, you know how like Aquaman has to fight to get through to get like his mother's like trident and stuff like that. Here in the movie, Willem Dafoe's like, oh, here's your mother's trident, and throws it down at him. I'm just like, oh, that was easy. Right? Willem Dafoe, by the way, yeah. I was so happy to see him.
I was gonna say,
just like, yay.
I was like, Green Goblin's in this? That's kind of cool. That's a Spider-Man reference for all those newbies that are on here. No,
don't tell Harry.
Yeah, right. The only major issues I have, and it's more because I don't mind it being dark. I've kind of come to grips, and I don't know how you feel about Batman versus Superman as a movie. We had a podcast.
Loved it.
See, we had a podcast early on where my co-host KB ripped it to shreds. I wrote a whole like blog about it that I was not a fan of it, but that's more the purist of me, that the fact that I still don't like seeing, like, I agree with you that I love Batfleck. Don't get me wrong. I loved how he played Bruce. I loved the Batman aspect of it. I like the scene in Batman versus Superman where he like, I think it's like he takes out like all these, it's like in a warehouse or something where he comes up through the floor, and I love all that. That was great. My problem is that I still, and granted, like knowing that it was like more of a Dark Knight Returns Batman is kind of like set that at ease. But my issue was that he was way too loosey goosey with making things explode and destroying things. Like, I'm like, this is Batman. Batman's got one rule: he does not kill. And that's his whole thing. So this is a Batman that's kind of lost his way now that I understand that. But still, my biggest gripe, and I get it to an extent, but to me, it was like a couple of different plot points, and I might be totally wrong, and correct me if I'm wrong. But I mentioned this way back when we did the Batman versus Superman episode. You have one side of the bay is Metropolis, and then you have the other side of the bay is Gotham. So there's only water separating the two. So the whole problem with Batman in Batman versus Superman is Clark Kent, aka Superman, has a problem with Batman. It takes nothing for him to fly across the bay and find him and take care of him. It'd be super easy, no pun intended, for him to do that. I still want to like hold true to like, okay, well, Smallville should be in Kansas. Metropolis is the, big city in the state of Kansas. That's why, you go from Smallville to Metropolis. Maybe it's a couple hour drive or whatever. And that's fine. Cause I grew up, with Smallville. I don't know if you've ever seen Smallville, but I kind of like how they set that up, that, Smallville is, we got to drive into the city. It's like for me, from driving from our area up to Boston, you know what I mean? Like, okay, I get that. We're in like these small towns or whatever, small cities, and we got to drive up to the big fancy city of Boston, whatever. I don't know. But to me, it's like, and then Gotham was always kind of like Chicago, you know what I mean? Or New York, like whatever that. So to me, it should feel like a little bit more of a separation. So you have like each, for lack of a better term, urban legend with the Batman and Superman, like they can be separated in different parts of the country rather than, hey, we're right next to each other. You know what I mean? That's my only major gripe with it but again, you're setting up that world. I even liked Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. It's a different take on Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
I was fine with that. I was like, okay, he's quirky. He's they're kind of going for kind of like almost like a Joker, Riddler vibe from the old Batman 60s cartoon, 60s show rather, with just, a little bit more of a mature version of whatever. And whatever, however they want to go with it, I was totally fine with it. I think Eisenberg did great for the what was presented to him as the role, So I think everybody did their part. And I think that the extended version of Superman versus Batman is a lot more, was it palpable or palatable? I think it's palatable, in the sense that, I still have a problem with like, oh, that's Jimmy Olsen. Bang, bang. All right, you're dead, Jimmy Olsen. Like, that's Superman's best friend. Like, you're just going to kill him off like that without him ever meeting Clark Kent, like, because he's helping Lois or whatever. Like, okay, I get it. You're taking those, artistic liberties with that. And it's like, but if you're doing a sequel, why aren't we going to see Perry White and Jimmy Olsen and like, the whole Daily Planet type of thing. So just little things like that was what kind of threw me off with Batman versus Superman. But from what I've seen so far in the Snyder Cut of the Justice League, yes, it's a very long movie, but at the same time, to your point, it breaks down and introduces all the other characters. To me, it's like the anti-MCU. We were talking a little bit before the break, myself and KB, about the MCU and how we were talking about video game movies and how, the MCU kind of showed like Hollywood and whatnot. You can take a property as long as you stay somewhat close to the source material. You can take certain liberties with it, but you can also put Easter eggs so that the fans of those will get an even greater pleasure out of watching the MCU movies, because you have those Easter eggs, but you can also do like the storyline. So the MCU did it. Here's all the individual movies. Here's Iron Man. Here's Thor. Here's Captain America. Here's the Guardians of the Galaxy. Here's Ant-Man. Boom, let's put them all together, in an Avengers movie or, Infinity War Endgame. So you already have an idea of who these characters are. With the Snyder Cut, it's almost they're doing the reverse. So I think it needs to be that length because, like, as you mentioned, you're going to spend a little bit of time getting some backstory on the Flash, on Cyborg, on Aquaman. So then when those solo movies come out, you already have that introduction to them in this other movie. So I think it needs to be, I thought the thought process behind it that Snyder did to introduce and give a backstory for each one of these characters, I thought was brilliant. So
yeah, I feel like that, like for me personally, I feel like the movie breathes, and that's the big point, is that you feel like for me, like I said, the 4 hours for me didn't feel like it was 4 hours because like you have a lot going on where you're having a lot shoved in your face, but it doesn't feel like it's being force fed into you. You feel like you're like, okay, I'm slowly getting this. Okay. All right, what do we got going on? And what I love that DC is doing is obviously Marvel is trying to, like, Marvel and DC, they're comics. So they're like, we want to show you what comics can look like in real life. And we're like, I'm for it. Marvel kind of went with, this is one big story. We're all going to tie in together. The original Hulk movie, we're not counting that one. The one with Edward Norton, we're kind of going to count it because Robert Downey Jr. is at the end of it. But Iron Man on, these are all together. What I love about DC's now kind of taking a part of is where it's like you're reading random issues of your favorite like characters. So like, to put an example, like, right, we have Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. Has nothing to do with Jared Leto's Joker, has nothing to do with the franchise at all, period. It is a separate, it's like literally where you're in the comic book store. Hey, I want to get Joker number 75. And oh, here's Joker number 1 of a different version of Joker, like Joker White Knight or whatever. And you're like, oh, this is totally different than Joker's, other stories, the Killing
Right.
Joke.
Right.
So I feel like with Robert Pattinson's Batman movie that we're going to get, I'm kind of excited, but I'm kind of not excited. I kind of want to see more Batfleck, and I feel like they're trying to do like that, where it's like, hey, this is Batman Detective Comics, and this is Batman solo comics and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's like we're gonna try to see that from the original plot point. The original plot that I heard from the Ben Affleck versions, we were supposed to have basically an Arkham Asylum movie, where Batman goes from one level to it was basically like the Arkham Knight video games, where he's fighting character after character after character, leading to the big character at the end, basically like that Bruce Lee movie where he has the tower.
Yep.
You know, we basically see that happen in Arkham, and I would love to see that movie, especially with Batfleck, because he already knows all these characters, even though like we haven't seen these characters played before. With his age and everything like that, it's going to be like, well, he knows what
he already has a history with them. He already has the history of, so it's kind of, and I like that because to your point, I think is you're taking a look at it from a different perspective, because this is a ventured Batman. All the other Batman stuff we've seen for the most part, even back in the Burton Batmans show the origin story, him becoming Batman, introducing the Joker, right. Batman Begins all the way to the end. Like even with, The Dark Knight Rises, right? Was that the third one with Bane that I can't think of now?
Yes.
So it's like we are given a time jump that it's been X amount of years and Batman's being hunted. So we've only really seen, even in the Christian Bale Batman, we've seen him fight essentially Ra's al Ghul, I'll never call him Ra's. I'm a total proponent of the animated series. It's Ra's al Ghul. That's what I call him, the animated series. So it's Ra's al Ghul, and then it's, he looks into the Joker. He's fighting crime, and there's probably not a lot of big bads, but he has the Joker and Two-Face, and then it's like, oh, now Batman's the enemy. Time jump. Okay, now here's Bane. You know what I mean? Like,
but you also forgot one more.
Scarecrow,
and
obviously.
It's Cillian Murphy, man. I love Cillian Murphy. Big Peaky Blinders fan. Just love the fact that Cillian Murphy was in all three as well. I'm just like, yo, this is great. I love Cillian.
He's the Scarecrow is one of my favorite villains, and I thought that was probably, everybody talks about. Everybody talks about Heath Ledger Joker, but also I can't think of the actor's name who plays Two-Face or Harvey Dent, but I thought he did really well.
Earnhardt or something.
Aaron Eckhart, that's what it is. And then and then the Scarecrow, like I think all three of those, and Liam Neeson is great and everything, but I mean. And then Tom Hardy too. But like, just to me, it's like the Scarecrow is just such a great villain. My favorite two villains in the Batman mythology. Actually, I were to do a top three, it'd probably be Scarecrow at number 3, Two-Face at number 2, and then the Riddler at number 1. Like a certain member of your band I know is a fan of the Riddler.
Yep.
But yeah, I love the fact that it's just like people fighting Batman on different levels. And I love the I guess relationship he would have with certain characters. Like I think the animated series did it right with Two-Face, not to get too off topic here, but like Harvey Dent and Bruce are friends, you know what I mean? And then it's like, it's that much more tragic when he becomes Two-Face, and as Batman, he has to stop him and is trying to save his friend from going down this road. And, it does such a great job with, like, to me, the animated series still holds up. That's all I'm basically trying to say.
Well, what I was going to say though, too, is with the anime, like with that version of Batman, like we listen to Kevin Conroy, where he has that elegance as Bruce Wayne and everything like that. I really feel Ben Affleck is giving us that portrayal where it's like he lost to Robin. And it's not like we're dealing with, George Clooney, where, he's fighting with his Robin, whatever, and it's like, oh, bad card, never leave home without it.
That's the greatest scene in the movie.
Hey, don't get me wrong. George Clooney was, he's a great guy.
And they have bat skates right into their boots. They can just hit the button and they turn into skates. It's great.
Hey, listen, chill. No, but it's like. What I love the most is like we kind of see him like taking like that mantle. Like personally for me, how my Batmans go, when it goes for Batman, I would say we got Michael Keaton, we got Christian Bale, and we got Batfleck right there. The rest I could go and digest and go over. But when it comes to Bruce Wayne's, I think Affleck's number one. We got Keaton number two, and I'm gonna put Christian at three, only on the grounds. I didn't like that anytime like he had to deal with certain people, he had to act like he was drunk, where he's like completely obliterated. But when Ben Affleck does it in Batman versus Superman, we see him just go, "Excuse me, I had a little bit too much. Nice shoes." Like it's not overbearing, but he's still keeping that class and he's still honoring the name, the Waynes, And when it comes to now, we're going back to Justice League.
Yeah, I was like, thank you for segueing back because I get off topic all the time. So please go ahead.
So what I was going to say is,
you might have just dropped off on me. You might have just froze up. Oh man.
See,
you're back. You're back. You just cut out for.
I'm sorry.
It was a great. No, it was a great segue. It's telling me my internet. Damn you, Comcast. They're saying my internet's unstable. I might have to plug in, but no, it was just it was interesting because like you're like, oh, the one thing I wanted to say, and then it just cut off, and I was like, oh my god, leave us like hanging on the thread, man. Well, hopefully this.
What I wanted to say, was no, but to explain like coming from the whole perspective of the movie. So let me kind of go to the ending because the ending, like it's we see the nightmare sequence at the very, very end. So hey, if we run out of time, at least we got to the ending.
Right.
We deal with a nightmare sequence, and then we see Ben Affleck wake up from it. And I'm sorry that I'm going to spoil it for you because I know you haven't seen it.
But that's okay. Do it.
So amazing.
Do it.
So he wakes up, and what's funny, what kind of made me giggle is it's skinny Affleck. We have a skinny Affleck at the end, and I'm just like reshoots, and I'm like, I was totally cool with it. I wasn't upset or anything. I was like, I'm like, yo, skinny Affleck. All right, cool. So he's at the end. He wakes up. He gets out of his bed, and then we see Martian Manhunter floating down. He's like, hey, you guys are trying to save the planet. I want to be there to help along too. And then he says, Bruce, you've done very well getting everybody together, and you would make your parents proud. And without skipping a beat, Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne goes, I sure hope so.
Tugs at the heartstrings, man. Tugs at the heartstrings.
It's
awesome.
It's definitely a beautiful scene. And basically that's how we end the movie. And the sequel is supposed to take point from Martian Manhunter's here. So let's continue to save the world. I personally wish, this is just an opinion, I personally want and hope and wish that Warner Brothers is just like, they're seeing how HBO Max has been shut down from people wanting to watch it. It's done great numbers. It got so many subscribers for an app that I was like, when I originally heard HBO Max was coming out, I'm like, cool, so we're never getting that. Until the Snyder Cut was announced for it, I'm like, I'm getting that. Thankfully, Izzy, don't get upset. He lets me use his HBO Max. Thanks, buddy.
Well, I don't know if you should be broadcasting that because they're cracking down on password sharing, man. So be careful with that.
We're in the same house.
All right, that's good.
In the next room.
Okay, that's cool then.
So it's okay. But anyway, I just love that we seriously are seeing this chapter close. And I'm just hoping that we get to see it move forward, not just like, hey, this is what I was doing in 2016.
Right.
Thanks.
Right. Well, here's hoping. And I mean, I think, like you said, the proof is in the pudding based on the views and the amount of hits it's getting with the, the views and the streaming and whatnot on HBO Max. So hopefully it opens the eyes to be like, hey, let's continue this vision. But speaking of continuing on, if you were to rate this particular movie with 10 being the best and 1 being awful, what would be the numeric value you would rate this if our listeners were to go out and stream it on HBO Max now?
So I actually said it on my Facebook as soon as I was done watching the movie. I wrote small little thing. I gave the rating an 8.9. I didn't give it a 9, only just on the grounds of just the slow motion. And the thing is, I also didn't give it a 10 either because like I didn't want people to say, "Kiss ass, he loves Ben Affleck," whatever. He's just gonna say that because he's all on Affleck and Kevin Smith's junk. I'm like, no, that's not it. That's not it. But if I was to honestly give it an honest rating, I'd probably give it an 8.9. It was such a spectacular movie. If you just wipe away the old version and you just literally look at this from a fresh palette, where you're just like, you're going into this as a completely different movie. You just got to, if you haven't seen the other version, don't see it. You don't need to. It doesn't matter anymore. What I'm hoping for is that we get it on DVD or Blu-ray, because as you can see, I'm a physical kind of person.
Yeah. You gotta keep those discs, man.
Got to keep them, because the thing is, everybody's just like, well, why do you collect so much? I'm just like, well, I'm gonna tell the honest truth. If I run out of internet, like if I lose internet, or if if an app like Netflix, like, right, everybody's like, oh, I love watching The Office. It's off Netflix now, and now you got to get Peacock.
Right. And then even so
it's like,
and not that I want to play the whole woke culture, but they're starting to remove episodes and stuff, obviously, because there's sensitive stuff, and these like, even so, real quick, I'll put this quick aside. I'm a wrestling fan. I'm hearing that Peacock now, the WWE network, is on Peacock, and they're removing stuff that might be too controversial from old episodes and pay-per-views and stuff in the past. So if you go to watch a WrestleMania, because it might have something that might be a little less sensitive in today's day and age, they actually remove it off the act. So you're not necessarily, and I get it and I understand it, but it's just, again, if you want to relive that particular memory, if you have the physical copy, then you're golden.
Yeah. And, you definitely get to hold on to more memories that way. Personally, that's why I like having, physical copies of my CDs.
Oh, where can you get those? Yeah, let's plug away before we get out of here.
You can get these CDs at sweetbabylon.bigcartel.com, and you can totally buy them, and I will mail them to you. And you can have all the lovely artwork that I personally made. Like, I took these photos, I edited this shot. There's Tommy in a police room or whatever. I don't know. He's getting questioned.
Where were you the night of April 19th?
Yeah, April 19th, man. I was talking with you. No.
There you go. Yeah, no, yeah, so 29th. Okay, excellent. Yeah, so let's plug all your social one more time, and then I'll throw a Cerebro suggestion out there. So go ahead and feel free to plug whatever you need to plug.
So if you want to follow me, as you were talking about, on my TikTok, you can follow me at Mr. Kyle Platt. That's also my Twitter, and my Instagram, because I got it hacked a few years ago. My Instagram is at Mr. Kyle Platt 24. Please go check out my band's Twitter and Tumblr. Not Tumblr. Instagram. We're at Sweet Babylon Music on one of them, and we're Sweet. So it's Sweet _Babylon _music on I believe Twitter.
You're gonna make me take out my phone right now and look. Let me.
All right, but it's Sweet. You can look us up, man. We're the only ska band as Sweet Babylon. But if you want to listen to us, we are available on all media outlets. That's including Spotify, Pandora. We're even on iHeartRadio, so we can play the iHeartRadio Festival. Hook us up.
So I just pulled up real quick. I just want to point this out. I was trying to look, and the first video that shows up on my Instagram is Mr. Kyle Platt 24 talking about somebody stealing his identity from Texas. So again,
yes, I recently deal with a scammer phone call, so I got to give them a little payback.
So all that information will be in the show notes as well for the podcast. So type in For Your Geek wherever you get your podcasts, and you'll see the show notes with all this information. I'm going to have Kyle email it all to me just to make sure it's all on the up and up and everything he wants to include. I'll keep that all in the show notes. I also want to talk about we do this bit now called Cerebro Suggestions, and it's just like something that I think our audience would like. Friend of the show, and he has his own podcast called the Chuck and Brad Podcast. I believe he's from Warren, Rhode Island. Chuck Staten recently went, and this kind of like segues and comes full circle, actually did a video documentary shot and edited for Tell 'Em Steve-Dave with Kevin Smith and a bunch of other guys. He went to Red Bank, New Jersey, to Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash, and did a whole bunch of filming and editing. And they're all on Kevin Smith's YouTube page now, where he did all that edit and he put together a 3-part documentary. I will include the links under the Cerebro Suggestions in the show notes. And then you can follow me at, I don't even know what my JFree82 on Instagram, and Free Your Geek on Instagram, as well as Twitter. And JFree the Geek, our website, I'm actually reworking that right now, because you mentioned, Kyle, Tumblr. I actually had my web address pointing to a Tumblr, but now I made a nice little Google site instead and started putting some different stuff on there. So I'm going to be segueing over to that and not necessarily pointing to a Tumblr in case that ever goes, the way of the dodo. But yeah, so follow us all on there. And Kyle, thank you for being on the show, sir. Great review of the Snyder Cut of the Justice League. It's definitely a 4-hour commitment, but based on what Kyle said and what I've seen so far, it looks phenomenal. Like they really give you the background on all these characters. It's still got that dark and gritty feel, that real feel, and I just think it's a lot more. I don't know. I just think it's a better viewing than the Whedon cut. So definitely go check that out. And usually I have KB do the catchphrase where he says, "Get your geek on." I told him I was going to do it, but Kyle, for being a guest on the show, I'll just say, hit him with the catchphrase, bro.
This is Kyle from Sweet Babylon. Get your geek on.
Oh, I love that. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.